Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mayong buntag kaninyong tanan, and thank you for joining me on this research webinar. According to Nelson Mandela, research is creating new knowledge. But most of us, mahadlok or kung pwede lang malikayan ang mag-take og research subject. In fact, most student, when I was still a student, bisag ako mismo, kung pwede lang mulayat, dili na mo take og research, but dili man ta ka-graduate. And the common facts of today, ang mga basihan nato, the knowledge, the facts, and the information that we are enjoying today, giingon nila that they are product of research yesterday. So, good morning to the first session of the series of research webinar. This is organized by the Business and Hospitality Management Department of Crystal E College. My name is Franz, and I'll be your moderator for this morning. And to formally open this webinar series, let's have the OIC head of the Business and Hospitality Management Department of Crystal E College, Ms. Jove G. Martin.
It gives me great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome on behalf of the Business Administration and Hospitality Management Department of Crystal Lake College. It is gratifying to note that we are able to provide you an activity like this, which covers a series of research webinar initiated and organized by Sir Franz Byron Gian. I cannot thank you enough, sir, for your initiative and for everything that you are doing for the department in helping our students. Thank you. And I wish to take this opportunity to welcome all the participants who will be joining in this webinar series starting today and for the next coming days. It will surely be filled with useful information about different topics, like the topic that we will be discussed today, the hospitality industry in the face of COVID-19, topics and research methods, which is very timely in the situation that we are facing right now. And another would be on developing and adapting research methodology in the new normal. We are in the new normal right now, so there will be more research topics and research agendas that you can make with with our situation. And there's more to come in the next coming days. So this is very timely, especially that we have students who are taking research courses in the semester. Surely, this webinar series and from the knowledge and expertise that our invited guest speakers will share us, it would surely widen our knowledge in crafting and in completing your research projects. Doing research, of course, is really challenging, but I think that no matter how challenging it is, if we all have the attitude to persevere and of course with application of what your teacher taught you and the knowledge and the information you will learn from this webinar series, I highly believe that you can all do it. um, you carry with you the best wishes from the entire department to have a productive and a successful webinar series. A pleasant day, everyone. Good day and welcome.
Thank you so much, Mom Jovi, for that encouraging welcome message for our students and our virtual audience this morning. And Dili nato padugay-dugayon pa. In fact, naka-standby na si Doc ang atong resource speaker kaganihara. In fact, we were already on board 9 a.m. doing the dry run, and I'm very thankful for the patient. Taas kayong pasensya sa atong resource speaker. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our resource speaker for this morning session. She was the former Mandawi City College Administrator from the year 2012 to the year 2016. She is a part-time college instructor of the Center for International Education, or CIE. It's a British school. From the year 2007 up to the present. She is also a part-time professor of the Graduate School of the University of San Jose Recoletos. She is a graduate of psychology and a product of Silliman University in the year 1979. She graduated her diploma in professional education in the year 2006 at Cebu Technological University. The same year, she finished her diploma in special education in the same university. She earned her master's in management major in public service management in the year 1997 at the University of San Jose Recoletos. She also earned her master in education major in special education in the year 2010 at the Cebu Technological Institute. And she finished her postgraduate studies in Doctor in Management, major in Human Resource Management in the year 2002 at the University of San Jose Recoletos. It is my honor and pride to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, our resource speaker for this morning. And help me give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Teresa Rosa INOT.
Hi, Franz.
Good morning,
Thank you
ma'am.
for that. Thank you for that lavish introduction. No,
Uh,
finally
actually,
we're on.
we are very honored to have you. Kumusta man?
I'm still good. No, well, I've already reached dual citizenship 5 years ago, but I'm still always on the go, all the retired but not tired.
Wow, the passion for service and the heart for service is still there.
Yeah, sort of. So I don't like to be, idle. I always make sure I have my time or I have my hands full.
Doki, question: how are you
Yes.
embracing knowing that I know na you're teaching mga doctorate students karon sa USJR, and at the same
Okay.
time you are teaching at the British School sa CIE. How do you cope up with the technology this time?
Oh, well, I'm very much, how do you call that? I have an open mind. I always welcome something new because, as they say, you have to put on, if you have to put on new clothes, you have to make sure you adapt to that particular dress or clothing that you have to wear.
Exactly,
So,
I would agree with you. Anyway, dili na nako padugay-dugayon. I am going to give
yes.
you the virtual floor for your
Okay.
this morning's presentation, and we'll be presenting to you your slide presentation for a moment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so as you can see on your screen, this is a study actually that was already conducted, and this was sent to the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, wherein there are four researchers by the names of Muhammad Riza Dabali, Valdemar Karbowski, Sibyl Sonmes, and Yorgos Apolostopoulos. So these are tongue twister names, but they really had contributed something, no, out of this pandemic that we're facing in. into which they collaborated their efforts to come up with this particular paper. Uh, Two of these researchers come from the University of Central Florida, uh, Mr. Mohammad Riza Gabali and Valdemar Karwowski. They are with the Department of Industrial Engineering and Management Systems of the University of Central Florida, while the other one is with the College of Business Administration, also with the University of Central Florida, Seville Sonmez. And the fourth researcher or author is Yorgos Apollos, who is from the Texas A&M University with its complexity and computational population and health group. So we proceed with their research. They went into the length of coming up with this methodology. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's a literature review actually. So two main research questions serve as guideposts for this particular review. The first question that somehow guided the authors uh, is on what aspects of hospitality industry at the time of COVID-19 pandemic have been studied. And the second question that was framed up rather was that what research methodologies have been used to investigate the impact rather of COVID-19 on the hospitality industry. So we continue with the next slide. Okay, so in order to address the above questions, a search strategy was developed to list and review all relevant scientific terms or papers rather, and they used the following strategies. They defined keywords and identified all relevant materials. They filtered the identified records, and they were addressing the risk of any bias. So one of the main steps in a systematic review is developing specific keywords. So herein, the researchers' objective was to target all critical segments of the hospitality industry, inclusive of which were hotels and restaurants, and the broadly defined tourism industry. So in table 1, as you can see, they have defined the keywords shown here. So search 1, the keywords were COVID-19 and hospitality industry. And search 2 were the keywords were COVID-19 and event industry. Search 3 led to COVID-19 and hotel industry as keywords. Search 4 led to COVID-19 and restaurant industry as its keywords. And search 5, COVID-19 and tourism industry were the keywords. Let's continue. So the sources or the databases that they use were the Web of Science, Science Direct rather, and the Google Scholar. So the keywords were used to discover relevant articles and identify 170 articles with relevant content. Now, because this topic is rapidly evolving, it is important to mention that the article discovery was finished at the end of August 2020, so just this year. So after developing the main database and identifying all relevant papers, a formal screening process based on scientific exclusion and inclusion criteria was followed. Now, because of the very timely issue of the COVID-19 pandemic, the researchers included documents in the forms of peer-reviewed academic publications, gray literature, and preprint articles. However, they excluded secondary sources that were not free or open access, letters, newspaper articles, viewpoints, presentations, anecdotes, and posters. So these were the exclusions. This screening of titles, abstracts, conclusions, and keywords rather in the identified records after removing duplication, wherein the number were reduced from 175 to 168. And furthermore, this resulted in excluding articles wherein it was further reduced from 168, it is now only at 115. And still enough, or rather not enough, relating to the topic, the remaining articles that somehow resulted to were only 53. And they were read in full against the eligibility principle. And 3 articles from the 53 were excluded for not addressing the research questions. Basically, from 175, the number of, shall we call it, reference materials that were that qualified for this particular study were now only 50. So the selection bias in a systematic review can occur by the erroneous application of inclusion-exclusion criteria and or specification of included papers dimensions. So 2 of the researchers, Muhammad Davali and Waldemar Karbowski, independently reviewed the title, abstract, and conclusions of the identified records to select articles for the full text review. Now, subsequently, the 2 researchers compare their selected articles to reach a consensus. Now, to continue, after reading the full text of the selected papers, the authors decided whether to include the article, which was considered and included upon reaching an agreement. However, there were disagreements that had to be resolved by the input of the 2 other authors who are Sibyl Sonmes and Yolgov. It's quite a tongue twister now. Pardon me for that. It's Yorgos Apostolopoulos. So they independently specified the included papers classifications and subsequently compare the results, resolving disagreements by consultation with the other authors. So Sonmes and Yorgos Apostolopoulos. So here, the selection strategy as per the PRISMA guidelines is illustrated in Figure 1. We have here Figure 1, wherein the PRISMA guidelines had the following criteria. For the identifications, the records identified through database searching was numbering 175, the original articles. And then additional records identified through other sources, there were none. However, after identifying qualified articles, they resulted to records removing duplicates, no? So, which resulted to only 168 remaining until at the screening process, records screened from 168, they were down to 115 with the exclusions. And with the eligibility criteria to follow, full text articles assessed for eligibility were now only 53 until screening further, full text articles excluded with reasons. So there were 3 in number, and thus the ones that were included finally were only 50, and these were the studies that were qualitative in synthesis. Okay, so further down the line, we have the following results. So all included articles were categorized and stored in the main database according to year, source of publication, the industry segment, geographic location, research approach, aspect of hospitality industry, and methodology. So we have here quite a lengthy table too that were containing the list of those included papers. So the criteria included title, segment of industry, geographic location, and the approach used. So let me just go through briefly the different contents of this particular table, pointing out line 1, 2, 3. We're in the Philippines. So I'd like to give this an example. No, we're in the Philippines was cited here. the title of the article was "How much did the tourism industry lost?" Estimating earning loss of tourism in the Philippines. And the segment of industry were the foreign visitor arrivals, and the approach used here was measuring the impact of COVID-19. So still continuation of table 2, we have here, these are the different papers that were qualified for the review. Okay, so let's just go through them very swiftly. Okay, so we have here from such areas or such titles as effect of COVID-19 on restaurant industry, how to cope with changing demand, to navigating hotel operations in the times of COVID-19, and the different segments of industry that were affected. Let's swiftly browse through them. Okay, now I'd like to focus on the publication source among the included papers. You can see here quite a number of sources, no? But the most, shall we call it, the most number of publication source were taken from preprint paper, which were about 19 all in all. Then we also have some sources. We have the International Journal of Hospitality Management. We have 2 from there. And for the Journal of Tourism and Hospitality Education, we also have 2. All the rest, only about 1 of each publication source. So now, the publication sources of the included papers, which were illustrated in figure 2, and the most common sources were Tourism Geographies, International Journal of Infectious Diseases, and the Journal of Tourism and Hospitality Education. Okay, so here in figure 3, you can see the map of the co-occurrence of the terms in the title and abstract of recorded papers. And as you can see, the highlight of which was centered on the COVID-19 outbreak, wherein the loops, as you can see, there are different loops of different colors are somehow going from one direction to another and sometimes doubling up. So meaning to say, there were chances that they co-occurred. So let me go through the explanation of this. So in order to generate a better picture of the included papers, so we have here the map of co-occurrence in the title and abstract shown in the previous slide. So here you can see that the colorful nodes are associated with specific terms, and their sizes represent the frequency of term occurrence and links between 2 nodes, which indicate that the co-occurrence of the terms. So in this figure, frequently co-occurring terms create clusters. So you have their clusters and appear closer with the same color. So a first glance at figure 3 reveals that the central cluster, the blue color, with the terms including COVID-19, which had health, travel, and effect and global tourism. So can we flash back the previous slide? Go back to the previous slide, friends. Okay, so you have there the center of which is the blue color, which indicates the number of co-occurrence in that particular geographic location. Let's proceed to next slide. Okay, so in this particular slide, we have here the geographic location among the recorded papers. So 15 papers investigated the hospitality industry in the face of COVID-19 on the global scale. So figure 4 depicts this one. So other articles focus on a specific country or location such as China, wherein there were 9 papers reviewed from there. India, 6 papers, and the United States, 4 papers. As you can see, 1 paper from the Philippines was included in this particular scale. So now in figure 5, we have here the approaches rather used by among the included papers. So for the approaches, they included discussing resumption of activities during and after the pandemic, wherein there were 13 papers that came out of it. And then reporting impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, 17 papers came out of it. Then developing simulation and scenario modeling, 8 papers came out of it. And then measuring the impacts of COVID-19 in the terms of economics, wherein they had 5 papers. And conducting surveys resulted to 5 papers. And then comparing COVID-19 with previous public health as one of the approaches utilized among these papers. Okay, now, before we go into the conclusion, let me somehow give you something else to, keep your motivation and attention in this particular presentation. Okay, so I'd like to tell you a short story about the tiny frogs. So the story goes like this. There was once a bunch of tiny frogs who arranged a running competition. And then, what was their goal? Their goal was to reach the top of a very high tower. And then, a big crowd had gathered around the tower to see the race and cheer on the contestants. So the race began. Honestly, no one in crowd really believed that. Okay, let's move on. So the tiny frogs would reach the top of the tower. Nobody believed, no, that they'd able to reach the top of the tower. You heard statements such as, "Oh, way too difficult. They will never make it to the top." Or, "Not a chance that they will succeed. The tower is too high." So the tiny frogs began collapsing one by one. Except for those who, in a fresh tempo, were climbing higher and higher, the crowd continued to yell, "It is too difficult. No one will make it." More tiny frogs got tired and gave up. But one continued higher and higher and higher. So this one wouldn't give up. At the end, everyone else had given up climbing the tower, except for the one tiny frog who, after a big effort, was the only one who reached the top. Then, all of the other tiny frogs naturally wanted to know how this one frog managed to do it. So a contestant asked the tiny frog how the one who succeeded had found the strength to reach the goal. It turned out that the winner was death. Can you believe that? So the wisdom of the story is, Never listen to other people's tendencies to be negative or pessimistic, because they take your most wonderful dreams and wishes away from you, the ones you have in your heart. Always think of the power which words have, because everything you hear and read will affect your actions. Therefore, always be positive. Always be positive. And above all, the deaf, be deaf, no? When people tell you that you cannot fulfill your dreams. Always think, I can do this. Okay? That should be your attitude. So thanks for watching that very short story. Okay, so we proceed to the concluding uh, presentation. So what came out of this study? So this paper provides a systematic review of the published research topics relevant to the understanding of the hospitality industry in time of COVID-19 pandemic. By selecting keywords and following PRISMA guidelines, the researchers explored two main research questions related to the objective, and a total of 50 papers that met the predefined inclusion criteria were included in the review. The following two research questions have been explored. And to recap, question 1, what aspects of the hospitality industry at the time of COVID-19 pandemic have been studied? And question 2, what research methodologies have been used to investigate the impacts of COVID-19 on the hospitality industry? So the included papers were classified further into 6 thematic groups, which were the approaches used. No? So these are, first one is developing simulation and scenario modeling. Second approach, we're conducting surveys. Third approach, reporting impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The fourth approach, the COVID-19, comparing the COVID-19 pandemic with the previous public health crisis. The fifth approach, measuring impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And sixth approach was the proposing of different remedial and management actions, wherein the discussion of resumption of activities were thought of. Now, these papers focused on different aspects of the hospitality industry that included recovery of the industry after the pandemic, market demands, revenue losses, COVID-19 spreading patterns in the industry, job losses, safety and health, then employment issues of hospitality workers, travel behavior and preference of customers, and social costs. So the reviewed papers use a variety of research methodologies, such as the SER model, or which is aptly described as the suspected, susceptible, infected, exposed, and recovered model. And then the epidemiological model, the agent-based model, supply and demand curve, the DSGE model, or the dynamic stochastic general equilibrium model, the crowd flow simulation model, the secondary data analysis, the seasonal autoregressive integrated moving average model, the scenario analysis, trend analysis, descriptive analysis, contingent valuation model, the content analysis, and analyzing questionnaire data. These were the methodologies that the researchers utilized. So in general, conducting a systematic literature review has several limitations. So the first limitation is identifying and analyzing papers published in a specific time frame. The second limitation is the inability to discover individual relevant papers arising from a limited number of keywords. The third limitation is using a limited number of search databases for article discovery. Now, although the researchers defined several search keywords and followed PRISMA guidelines, it is possible that some papers that met the inclusion criteria were not considered in their review. They did not include the papers published after August 2020, as August 2020 was the cutoff period. And several papers on the topic have just started to emerge. And secondly, they selected papers only from the sources or the database that included Web of Science, Science Direct, and Google Scholar databases. Now, thirdly, they could not include articles where authors investigated the hospitality industry at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic without mentioning the hospitality industry, tourism industry, event industry, hotel industry, and restaurant industry. Fourth reason could be one of the main challenges of this review was defining inclusion criteria. Because of the very timely issue of the COVID-19 pandemic, they defined broad inclusion criteria, and therefore they could not include several studies that met inclusion criteria but generated by institutions outside of the traditional academic publishing and distribution channel. So, despite the above limitations, the researchers identified the hospitality industry's main aspects in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, these include the recovery of hospitality industry, which were discussed by 19% of the included papers. Another included market demand, wherein 18% of the papers amounted to this. And then revenue losses, 16% of papers. The COVID-19 spreading patterns in the industry, only 14% of the papers. Job losses, 10% of included papers. Safety and health aspects, 8% of the papers. And issues relevant to the employment of hospitality workforce, only 7% of the papers. Travel behaviors, 4% of papers. Preferences of customers, 2% of papers. And social costs of the pandemic, discussed by 2% of the included papers. It should be noted that there are numerous fertile research and methodologies that can be applied by the multidisciplinary research teams to study the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the hospitality industry. Now, such approaches and methods include using complex system science frameworks such as syndemics. Second is developing simulation modeling in different types of system dynamics, discrete event simulation, agent-based modeling, and Monte Carlo or risk analysis simulation. They also included a third one, which is investigating the application of new technologies such as educational technology, information technology, and robotics in response to the pandemic. Also using artificial intelligence in different types of machine learning, then deep learning and neural networks, and developing the best practices concerning the pandemic. So we have here illustrated by figure 8. To the next slide, Franz. We have figure 8, some more. Okay, you have here figure 8, future research approaches to study the hospitality industries in the face of COVID-19. So these are areas that could still be further studied. So the objective was on the potential research areas wherein the approach could be using complex systems science frameworks, simulation modeling, investigating application of new technologies in the industry, machine learning and artificial intelligence, and developing the best practices. So these were the suggested approaches, wherein you have also subject matters that could be a very good source of further research, wherein you can go into the sustainable industry, complex interaction between elements, impact of different policies and a long-term, recovery of the industry and a long-term, safety of customers, issues of undocumented workers, resilience of the industry, the market demand, the hostile behavior toward tourists, risk of assumption activities, rather risk of resumption of activities during the pandemic, and last but not the least would be the emerging new markets. So these are the suggested topics for future studies. So let's go back. So for example, due to the complex dynamic, okay, that one. So for example, due to the complex and dynamic nature of the current pandemic, the use of wide array of complex systems, science frameworks, and simulation modeling can make an important contribution by examining how the synergistic effects of work and living conditions, as well as COVID-19, government and corporate responses can influence the long-term health and safety of tourism and hospitality workers. Along these lines, the development and application of new technologies and equipment in the hospitality industry should protect guests and workers alike. Finally, other potential areas of research include the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence in building a more sustainable tourism and hospitality industry and developing the best practices the industry's resilience in the future. Okay, so I'd like to end up with this particular quotation. No? So it says here, when it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars. And next slide, please. Thank you for listening and watching at the same time. God bless.
Bored na ko. Thank you so much, Doc Inot,
That was
for that
quite, that was quite a lot, no?
informative presentation. It was a jam pack of informations,
Yes.
and I remember here na from 175 titles, the
Yes. We're
trimmed
down to
down to
50.
50.
Yes.
Yes, and
That was quite,
there are. Yes, go ahead, please.
how we call it, a big number of the original articles studied. They somehow decreased down to 50. So
Yes,
others did not
and
qualify.
yes, others did not qualify. And we were able also to understand other areas of the potential for research. You
Mm-hmm.
presented
Yes.
also other areas kung asa pwede pa ang atong
Yes.
mga researchers, they can get that idea as the source of their title or their topic.
Yes. Correct. So
So,
there's very much, as I recall it, a very vast areas for concern to dwell your research on, or wherein they can have a potential topic to consider with their in just to comply with their requirements to graduate.
and in fact, this time, daghan kaayo ang maayo na title, most especially when you are doing an action research in relation to COVID-19. Not just
Correct.
merely the hospitality
Yes.
industry or the tourism industry, but the business sector at large. If you are going to segment the
Yes.
business sector, daghan pa kaag pwede mahimo na title or topic.
It's really, really a vast, no, a vast source for topics to conduct your study on. So they will not have, they won't be facing a problem with that. No? That the area is still very, since COVID is just very recent, so there's really potential for, knowing a lot about this particular pandemic.
All
And
right.
the,
Thank you
yes,
so
the
much for that.
effects.
Now let's try to open the virtual floor for
Yes,
questions. Let's
yes.
take a look and see kung may papasok, may musulod na mga question.
Okay.
All viewers can message us, not necessarily our students, but our audience, our virtual audience can send a question to Doc Inot And it's the opportunity nato karon na siya mismo ang motubag sa
Yes.
inyong pangutana. Do we have any question?
Remember, I'm here to help. And at the same time, in selecting that particular study to review and somehow to, present as a topic for this talk, I can say that it's really a very much a big learning experience for me. I'm also learning, although I'm exposed to the hospitality and the tourism industry in particular with you, with our experience at the Mandao City College. Somehow this also deepens my wisdom and my, learning on this particular industry, which is now badly hit by this pandemic.
Yes, Ma'am Inot. It is really badly, the situation I mean is really critical on the tourism industry. And
Yes.
we are praying this would be better anytime soon. And ingon pa nako, let's not say let's bounce back. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
let's bounce forward. Puhon.
Yeah, that's true.
Murag, mhm.
We should be resilient. No? We should be resilient. We should always, from a particular situation that we are in, let's not stay fallen. Let's get up and, dance to
Exactly.
the music.
We have to dance to the music. And
Yes.
whatever music it may be, bisag parehas
Mhm.
left ang tiil or right ang tiil kung musayaw, we have no choice but we have to dance with the
Yeah.
music.
Jan, that's you should have to adapt. You need to
Oh,
adapt, otherwise you cannot survive. Survival is somehow very important. Otherwise, if you somehow don't do something to arrest your problem, you will be taken by it. You will be overwhelmed by it.
it seems na walay pangutana sa ato
Okay.
virtually.
Yeah.
Mag-segue ko sa akong pangutana, Doc Inot.
Ayan.
Since
Sige.
you've been doing paneling mangyod, og mao na yung
Yes.
pinaka-crucial pod na part, ang pangurog, ang paningot, bisag full ang aircon sa panel room or ang venue.
Kakasabot.
Oo, di ba? Murag, ang
Yeah.
pangurog na kaihion ka, nakalibangon,
Yeah.
magdungan, di na jud masabtan. What will be your
You're in a
tips to
stressful
these
situation.
students?
Yeah, my tips. Okay, first and foremost, you have to prepare, no? Prepare for the topic, selection of the topic. You have to really think long and hard about it. You cannot just, pick any topic and then you don't know what to work on, how to go about it. So you will have a half-baked or somehow a topic that might be not to your liking or something that you don't know about, and you will have a hard time doing it. So, as they say, you have to love, or shall we call it, have passion on what you're going to do. Research is not an easy subject, no? It's one of the, most hated, or shall we call most avoided. But as soon as you get to know and, try to learn to love it, try to get to know it better, you can more or less do it easily. So we should
Siguro
have
will
a very
borrow.
mm, okay. Now, would it be
Siguro,
okay, Fran? I have one more presentation, or I mean, the energizer that I have to somehow. It's a motivation energizer. So I hope it should also leave a very good, uh, thing. This will encourage our students to somehow think long and hard and how to, gain self-confidence. Show to us the coffee bean motivation. I'd like to part with that particular energizer. I've always used this as a parting shot for my classes. So to encourage to be the best that you can be. We will just make use of the time. But since there are no questions, I'd like to give this as a parting shot, as a food for thought for our viewers, for the late viewers especially. Okay, so you have there the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean. So this is the story of items: the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean. Okay. So you put in over the fire. In the first pot, you put some carrots. In the second pot, you put some eggs. And in the third pot, put some coffee beans that have been grounded into coffee powder. So I always remember going to Bose or going to Starbucks.
Exactly. I miss the scent of those coffee.
Okay, so boil all three pots for 15 minutes. So take out of what you put in after 15 minutes. So the carrots went in hard. They are now soft. And then the eggs went in soft inside. Now they are hard inside. So the coffee powder has disappeared. But the water has the color and the wonderful smell of coffee. Yummy. Mm. And then think about life. Life is not always easy. Life is not always comfortable. Sometimes life is very hard, especially in the pandemic of COVID-19. Nobody is, on a bed of roses with this pandemic. Now, things don't happen like we wish. Don't treat us like we hope. We work very hard but get few results. What happens when we face difficulties? So, research students, if you face difficulties with your choice of topics, don't be that. Now, think about the pots. The boiling water is like the problems of life. We can be like the carrots. We go in up and strong. We come out soft and weak. So we get very tired. We lose hope. Give up. There's no more fighting spirit. So don't be like the carrots. We can be like the eggs. We start with a soft and sensitive heart. We end up very hard and unfeeling inside. We hate others. We don't like ourselves. Become too hard-hearted. There's no warm feeling, only bitterness. So don't be like the eggs. We can be like the coffee beans. The water does not change the coffee powder. The coffee powder changes the water. So the water has become different because of the coffee powder. See it, smell it, drink it. The hotter the water, the better the taste. Is that so? Is that not so, Franz? The hotter the water, the better the taste.
Exactly.
And then we can be like the coffee beans. We make something good from the difficulties we face. We learn new things. We have new knowledge, new skills, new abilities. We grow in experience. That is what I'm experiencing now. I'm learning StreamYard. And then we make the world around us better. To succeed, we must try and try again. We must believe. Go back to the last, that's the most important part here. So we must believe in what we are doing. We must not give up. We must be patient. We must keep pushing. Problems, difficulties, we push them. So Problems and difficulties give us the chance to become stronger and better and tougher. So, what we are like when things do not go well? Are we like the carrot or the egg or the coffee bean? Oh, we like the coffee bean. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that inspiring presentation.
Okay.
I was so inspired kaganiha sa ato ang the frog
Okay.
that of course people would tell negative things just to disappoint you
Uh,
to achieve things out just like research. Di na nimo
uh,
kaya lisod man na. Usa man na nimo pagsugod. Gasto ra na. But the
yeah.
good thing
That's
for the winner na frog kay
mm.
bungol di ay siya. Mao ni nakasaka siya sa tower despite of the
So he,
shout of the crowd because he did not listen, he did not
Mhm,
bother.
mhm.
So therefore, the moral of the story, just like the frog, don't
Yeah.
listen, ignore,
Just
and simply
be
move
positive.
forward
Yeah, be positive. That's
and
what
be
you should do.
positive. The same as well with the last
Okay.
motivation that you have. So we have three
Mhm,
options: to be a
mm.
carrot, to be an
To be
egg,
an egg
or
or to
to be
be a
the
coffee
coffee.
bean. So be like the
So it's
coffee bean.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Something that ignites you in the morning or on the
Yes.
duha moment in the
Makes you up.
afternoon.
Makes your day, you it first up your day.
Exactly. So since wala na pangutana, Doc Inot, at this
Okay.
juncture, I would like
Yeah.
to award the certificate of appreciation.
Mhm.
Um, hold on for a moment. Let me present
Okay.
the
Yeah.
certificate of appreciation.
Okay.
There we go. Nakaton jud tag ahad sa StreamYard, Doc Ino.
Yes. Oh, tanan. You can have your own kung ano good ani France. Events management.
Maggama na tag TV
You
channel ani oy. Anyway, so here's the certificate of appreciation. Let me read the
okay. Thank you
citation.
very much.
Crystal
Okay.
E College,
Okay.
Central Highway, Tawala, Panglao, Bohol. Certificate
Mhm.
of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Teresa H. Inot for her invaluable contribution as a resource speaker of the research webinar series entitled The Hospitality Industry in the Face of COVID-19, Topics and Research Methods, conducted through StreamYard platform on the 18th
Mhm.
of December 2020, hosted by the Business and Hospitality Management Department of Crystal E College, Panglao, Bohol, Philippines. Signed by our President, Will Tyron B. Tirol, PhD. Ma'am, please virtually accept our certificate of appreciation.
How do I accept like that? Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyway,
It was indeed a privilege, and I'm also happy to share some of my learnings, and somehow this would also multiply to others gaining more wisdom and knowledge. Thank you very much for this particular um, chance to let me share with you my knowledge and some expertise on the research topic.
thank you so much, Doki, for that one. And
Okay.
we hope once everything is fine and it's safe to travel, we are
Uh-huh.
excited to see you in
Okay.
person, in flesh, here in
Yes.
our school.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Hopefully, pohon, sa maayong panahon.
Sige.
Once
That's
again, we
very
are very much thankful.
I look forward to, meeting you once again, face to face. Na wala na ning mga virtual. Sige, Franz.
Yes. Thank you so much once again, Doki.
Okay. Yes.
We'll see
Ha-
you behind the stage
ha-
virtually.
yes. Sige. Thank you, Franz. Thank you for inviting me
You're
once again. Okay.
you're
Okay.
welcome and thank you so much. So that's it, Dr. Teresa Inot. We are really much thankful for the time you spend with us, delivering your presentation and giving us your precious time. Though, to be honest, I would just wanted to share to you, kagabi na send in tawon siya message na ako because, yeah, just to mention our service provider sa internet, PLDT, nag-back down sa ilahang location. She is in Mandawi right now. So what she did this morning, she messaged to me na, Franz, kung phone data lang sa akong phone, that's 2 gigabytes, basin dili enough. So, what she did, nagsakripisyo yung tao, nahasol na to, nilabang padong sa pika sa balay sa yang igsuon just to be with us virtually. So let's give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Teresa H. Inot. And I would like to thank the technical people who helped me behind this camera, behind this beautiful setup that I have. I would like to give thanks to the technical and production team, to Aldanisa Delagan, to our producer Marvin Mandin, to Ivan Ray Toledo, to Maricel Rejas, to Eman Paredes, and to the person who rescued kaganiha kay nag-bag down ng sa laptop namo, Carl Alboradora. Thank you so much sa imuhang pagdali-dali pag-ari just to save the day. And once again, it was a fruitful day. It was a fruitful morning. I would like to see you later this afternoon at exactly 2 for another resource speaker for our research webinar series. Though it's holiday, but learning should not consider holidays because learning should happen every day. This has been Franz. Thank you so much for joining me. See you this afternoon. Bon appetit.